Today, in this video, we're going to learn how to do a figure 8 on a bight. Here's our example of one that's been completed. It's dressed well. When we're looking at the different components of our figure 8 on a bight, we notice that both of our parallel ends stay parallel as they run through the entirety of the knot. There aren't any crosses involved where our two sides of the rope are twisting. Our loop up here for our carabiners is just a little big, but that's okay right now for this demonstration. We would want that ideally to be just at our fist to make sure that our carabiners don't jumble around too much. And then when we come down here, our tail is just about perfect. We want our tail to not be too much longer than our fist, and right around where this tag is, but we don't want the tag up inside our knot, so it'll be down just a little bit further. So that's our figure 8 on a bight of what it should look like when it's completed. To start our figure 8 on a bight, I'm going to measure this to be about an arm's length, and then I'm going to create a bight in my rope, so it's in half. Probably need a little bit less rope than this. Here we go. Then I'm going to put my hand down towards where I want my figure 8 to end. I'm going to bring my bight in the rope above my thumb towards me, and then I'm going to cross it over to the left, and it's going to go behind. This is the bight moving. It's going behind my two ends. I'm going to rotate my left hand that's holding my knot gently to the right, so you can see. And I'm going to put my bight through the top of my 8 that I created. So here's that classic figure 8 shape that we want in all of our figure 8 knots. Notice that I have a little bit of an intersection happening right here, but we can fix that very easily by just flipping our rope over and then tightening it up. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to measure out my rope to be about an arm's length, and then I'm going to create a bight. So for that arm's length stretch from the end of my tail, about here, to here, it's hard to see in this frame, unfortunately. That's the length from my fingers to my shoulders. That's what I mean when I'm making an arm's length. And right where my shoulder would be, where I'm pinching here, is where I'm going to fold the rope. So now I have 2 stretches of arm's length rope. Then I'm going to put my thumb and my forefinger right about where I want my tail to start. If we remember on our example, my tail is right here, so that's about where my thumb and forefinger would be. I'm going to fold that bight down towards my body, and then I'm going to direct that to the left, and it's going to come behind to the right. I'm going to gently rotate my figure 8 to the right, and then I'm going to push my bight through the top of my figure 8. And now I'm going to rotate my tail. There we go. All right, so that's our figure 8 on a bight. It's well dressed. We're going to check it by checking. My tail's a little long again, but that's okay for now. I'm checking to make sure that my 2 sides of rope are still parallel, and they are, and my carabiner knot is just the right size. Perfect. Also remember, as you're tightening your knot, you only tighten on the carabiner loop and on the tails. You should never push down on your knot because it will deform your knot a little bit. And then once you load it with a participant, your knot will start to fall out of shape and shift around just a little too much. So ending with our check, this makes our classic figure 8 shape. To get out of this, if it's been a long day, you never want to step on your rope or try to use a rock or another piece of nature to kind of smash it out of place, because that can damage our rope. So what I would suggest doing is, if you're outside, put a tarp down on a picnic table. And here I'm on a nice hard surface, so I would just push on my knot with my hands to break it a little bit. I would flex at the middle bend, and then you should be able to push the loop through. An example of something that I've seen where we know our knot is wrong is I might see someone they'll forget to make or miss the step of our classic figure 8, and they'll just do one turn around, and then they end up with a overhand knot on a bight, and this is not what we want. Something else that I might see is if we put an extra twist in our rope as we're going around before we put it through, and now let's say that now we have a couple of intersections happening. We've got one here, and we've got one up here. So this is something that you just watched me make happen. This is something where if I have this many intersections and it's not laying well, then I am just going to start over and redo it and try again. Another element that you want to look for when you're checking to make sure your knot is correct is if it lays nice and flat like this. We want a nice straight line from our carabiner loop to our tail. And that way it compacts well once it's loaded. So a nice straight line. Let's do our knot one more time. So I made my bight already, and I placed the 2 lines between my thumb and my forefinger. I'm going to bring the bight down towards the tail, direct my bight towards the left, bring it behind the rest of the rope to the right. I'm going to turn the knot in my left hand to the right, that bight up at the top, and I'm going to put our bight through that top loop of our figure 8, and then I'm going to dress it. And there we go. There's our figure 8 on a bight.